So I've talked in the past about various psychedelics, mushrooms, DMT. I haven't spoken much about LSD, and that's because personally, since awakening, although I liked it very much when I was younger, since awakening I found it to be not harmonious with my path. It just felt it felt like it was way too much energy into the mental body, and I had to bring it back to stillness, which is what I wanted in the first place, you know. However, that was years ago since the last time I used it, and I've had subsequent realizations and understandings about my own mental body and my own mind. As I've said a little in the past, I was at war with my own mind for a while, mistaking the function of mind itself with the ego. So in a sense, I was stifling my own creativity and closing my own third eye because I only wanted stillness, emptiness, void. That's what I thought. Everything else was an illusion. And although ultimately that may be true, because infinity from the actual place of infinity is emptiness or fullness, however you want to see it, light or dark, but it cannot have form within it. It must be formless because it is all things. So in any case, because I've had subsequent awakenings and understandings, I thought it would be worth exploring one more time LSD, to see if there's anything useful, to see if I still feel the same way about it, because lots of people find value in it, right? And of course there's going to be value in it at different levels. I found value in it when I was younger also, and some of the first feelings of, you know, unity and universality that I had were on LSD. But see, these were mental understandings of the concept of unity. I could see the energy and connection everywhere, but I couldn't feel it. I certainly couldn't feel it in my heart. I could feel it in my body in a way, and unless you've had a genuine heart awakening, you're not going to understand what I mean. A woman might understand. Most men are not going to fully understand what I mean here unless they've had a genuine heart awakening, because I didn't feel love on LSD. I thought about love. I thought about loving things, you know. But in any case, so I did take LSD again a couple days ago. I took 3 hits of fairly typical stuff, I would say. And what I found was, again, I found that it was way too much energy with kind of nothing to do, right? So I had to bring that into balance right away. And now, with my understandings of the astral and the 5th dimension and exploring different dimensions now, I can say pretty much unequivocally that what LSD does, when people say it activates the Sylvan fissure, which is the Sylvan fissure in the brain, which is known to be a place associated with dreams, especially lucid dreaming. So what it's doing is putting you into the 4th dimension. It's dialing you in. You might as well call it like a radio dial. It is dialing you in to the 4th dimension, period. Now what's interesting about it is, were you to get to the 4th dimension through death of the physical vehicle, this would not be the same thing, of course, as taking LSD, because you would leave behind, hopefully, most of your 3rd density ego in the transition to the 4th after death. Some may stay. If you held too much, you would end up in like a position of a ghost or something, or haunting, you know, something like that. And you would have to work through those things, you know, or in the astral, you have to work through those things until you can let go your 3rd density attachments, right? But when you do it on LSD, the majority of the ego, of the 3rd density ego, is shifted up in vibration into the 4th dimension. Okay, and that's when people take LSD, they feel kind of high, like similar to amphetamines or something like that, maybe even stronger. And that's why no one sleeps on LSD, and it can, you know, it lasts for 10, 12 hours sometimes. And this energy you're feeling is because your body is actually being vibrated up into the 4th dimension. Because our consciousness and mind is much more powerful than our body, which is a manifestation within consciousness, within the mind. The mind is a manifestation with a structure or form of limitation within consciousness, while the body is a structure or form or manifestation or density within the mind, right? So therefore, these are orders of power and magnitude going down, meaning if your consciousness changes, your mind changes, your body must eventually follow suit. So LSD like forces this change over the hour and a half basically to shift you up into the fourth dimension. Now, here's the thing. Depending on your body, the density of the physical vehicle, and like the foods that are eaten, all that stuff will come into play. And the mind, of course, the personality, the ego, and how spiritually attuned they are, how dense their ego is, how in harmony the fourth dimensional body of the being, which exists all the time, but is generally kind of sleeping while the attention is put into the third density. As it moves up into the fourth, the third density personality, as it moves up into the fourth, it will move into a very confused, because it doesn't belong in this place. So this is literally why there's so much confusion with people on LSD, is because they're moving into the fourth, bringing a huge amount of their third density body with them. In fact, it's a similar kind of thing when people see ghosts, which are actually in the fourth dimension, heavily materialized into the third dimension. The ghosts often have no idea what's going on. They're very confused. They're not seeing this world clearly. They don't belong here. LSD is doing something similar like that, moving you into the fourth in a very confused and addled way. Okay? Now, there is also some feeling in me that LSD was inorganic, that because mushrooms changed everything for me. Like, that was the first time I had a genuine heart awakening. And anytime I take mushrooms, if I'm not clear, if I'm not in my heart space, I go right there. It's like a trigger for me, because that's where they want to take us. That's where they're resonant, the fifth dimension. LSD, being that it resonates with the fourth, is quite different. And because now I don't know, it comes from ergot, so essentially, but it does not grow natural. So in the form you find it in, it is synthetic, it is artificial. Okay, so it is it is a million times stronger than it would be in the ergot form. So that's enough to really consider this thing synthetic, inorganic, right? Well, because it dials you into the fourth, which, if you are not, for those of you who don't understand the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, and like the battle between light and dark and shadow and light, good and evil, whatever you want to call it, with duality within the fourth dimension and lower. And it starts kind of at the fifth, where we have unity, but we also have service to self unity in the fifth, at the very low levels of the fifth, I guess, regardless. So being that the whole battle, so if you've heard of reptilians, if you've heard of archons, if you've heard that there are beings like poltergeist, if you've heard of demons, any of that stuff, all that stuff's in the fourth. That's all the astral world, okay? That's where all these beings are hanging out. So being that the whole battle for good and evil kind of starts in the fourth down and materializes into the third, LSD plugging you right into the fourth puts you right into that domain. And unless so where your heart space is, how in tune with your soul you are, how resonant you are with truth, will determine how far into the fourth you can go, whether you go to the upper fourth or the lower fourth, because the lower astral is very different than the upper astral. So I went into the astral, but I had my whole experience quite different, because I know how to navigate, I know how to keep my surroundings beautiful, so that's what I manifest around me, is beauty and love all around me. But I'm not comfortable in that space, and for certain, because I don't normally operate in that dimension, and it pushed me lower for me than normal. It brought my physical body higher a little bit than normal, but my I guess my mental and my emotional body were kind of squeezed down into the astral, where I don't normally inhabit, and that didn't feel very comfortable. And I definitely got like attacked by reptilians or something. Like all, I don't know about attacked. Nothing attacked me actually, but I saw reptilians all around. Like I saw reptilian faces all around me, and I don't deal with reptiles. They don't come around me normally. They're not in my meditations very often. So this tells me something. It definitely plugged me in something. And then right after that, I saw a giant hive mind, and I knew right away this is the artificial intelligence matrix, like, or at least one of them that I'm looking at. So it plugged me right into that too. Perhaps it exposed some shadow element within my personality or ego that was still attuned to this, for certain. Yes, because I'm not a fully perfected being yet in all moments of every day, in all areas of my life. For certain, I'm still walking my path. So it helped reflect some of these things to me, expose some areas of the mind. Also, it exposed some biases to me where I've been scared to fully open the power of my mind because of the darkness that has been in my mind before, and because of the misleading of us, because of the deception, you know, and the whole war out of that, the whole conflict out of that, bringing me to freedom, you know, which I now realize is not conflict. And you know, it was never conflict. It was meant to be. In any case, so when I saw this matrix, I realizing, you know, that this isn't where I wanted to be. This isn't, I didn't feel, not only that, I couldn't feel my heart space. It cut off my heart space somewhat, not completely, but enough that I felt very uncomfortable. So I couldn't like stay in that position. So I called to the Christ. I called to the Christ. I called to my higher self. I called to Archangel Michael and Raphael, and I called to all the angels and the devas, and I filled this place with angels and devas, and I bridged the gap to the fifth. So I had to leave that matrix, that fourth dimensional matrix. I had to break through this barrier, and it felt like hitting an electric fence. I'm not kidding. Like it went bzzz, like that. Like it was intense. And then boom, I was out. I felt the Christ light fill me, and I was in the fifth again. You know, I was in unity, my heart space was opened, and I had bridged the gap, but still, I felt uncomfortable for hours after that. So I'm never, ever taking it again. That gave me all the answers I need. I definitely learned a lot about the lower astral because I've not been playing around in the lower astral much. In the fourth at all, really. I get to the fifth as quickly as possible, and that's where I want to live at, is the fifth. Meaning unity, harmony, acceptance of all, meaning no conflict within my mind, body, emotional system, or outer reality, even pure harmony with all things. So yeah, mushrooms, of course, take me right there to the fifth. They want to take you to the fifth. That's where they're comfortable. It's just that most people, when they take mushrooms, now here's the thing, you can't get to the fifth on mushrooms unless you can get to the fifth, unless you're capable of surrendering the ego, unless you're capable of moving into silence beyond all thoughts of yourself and what you are, all judgments about who you are, unless you can move into true, deep stillness, silence with mushrooms, you're not going to be able to get to the fifth. So, or into your heart space, however you do it, however you do it. But if you're not going to get totally into your heart space, fully unconditional love for all things, then you can't get to the fifth. But the mushrooms want to take you there. They're going to do everything they can to push you there. It's just you're going to be ready if you are. So if someone still has a lot of, you know, third density entanglements, mushrooms will take them to the lower astral because that's all they can do. But they're trying to take you to the fifth. LSD is dialing you right into the fourth, and it's actually putting a barrier, it seems like. It might not be putting the barrier. It may be the artificial intelligence hive mind that exists within the fourth, which, you know, has dialed into the whole collective consciousness of beings taking LSD because they're entering its domain. So why wouldn't it toy with them? And remember, there are a lot of beautiful things in the astral too. The upper astral is represented by a lot of light beings. It's a reflection. That's what it is. The astral is a reflection between the fifth dimension and the third dimension. So it reflects the light and the dark, the unity and the division within it. Yeah, it's a reflection. Love and light.